Today, Judge Brett Buckley, the president of Thurston County District Court, joins us to talk about what is happening at the district court as the county moves into phase 2 of the relaxation of the shelter-in-place order. Hi there, Judge Buckley. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Robert. Good to see you again.
We're in phase 2 now, and things are a little bit different. What are the protocols for visiting the courthouse?
Well, the primary protocol is you have to be on our calendar, but even if you are on our calendar right now, you can't visit. And we're a little premature in taping this because it's actually Monday, the 15th of June, where we open up and start having people on our calendars come to court. But assuming that that's what we want to talk about is what it looks like when we unlock the courthouse door and have people come in for hearings. Starting Monday, certain hearings will be conducted in court, and during that time, folks will come to the front door, and the security folks at the front door will have a list of who the expected people are, and they will give their name, and they will go through security, and security will confirm that they are wearing a mask, which is going to be also a requirement. And we are limiting the number of people on our calendars right now to no more than 6 per hour so that we can have the appropriate physical distancing within the courtrooms. Now, by necessity, this leaves out a rather large group of people who frequently come to court, and those would be family members or supporters of somebody coming to court, or just interested members of the public. None of those folks are going to be allowed to come into the court because we just don't have the facility to accommodate that number of folks and maintain the public health recommended 6 feet of distance between each person. Mm-hmm. So we will limit it only to people who are actually on the calendar. Now, those folks who can't come in have an absolute right to be able to watch the proceedings. And we are accomplishing that by broadcasting all of our court proceedings on YouTube. And we have 2 or 3 YouTube channels that we are using right now for district court. And we have been broadcasting our court proceedings in this manner for the last 2 months. And we will continue to do so, even though technically the door to the courthouse will be open. But since there are certain folks who can't come in, that is members of the public, we will then provide the opportunity to observe these proceedings on YouTube.
Okay, so if you're a family member or somebody interested in a case, how do you find out this YouTube address and how do you get connected?
Go to the district court webpage, and there is a link right there, and you can just click on it and it will bring you right to the YouTube channel. And I believe it has information that tells you which of our 2 or 3 channels you would have to go to based on the nature of the hearing that is being conducted. So you'll probably need to know from the person you are interested in observing what the nature of their hearing is, and then you can just go observe that hearing on YouTube.
Okay, all right. Now, people have to go in for certain services like a marriage license and things like that. What's the workflow for that like? Should you allow more time? What should people be prepared for?
Well, for those finding love in the time of COVID and are hoping to get married, the first thing they need to do is contact the auditor's office to get the license. The court does not issue the license. Once they have a license, they then present that to the court and arrange to set up a wedding date. So what you can do is get on the court webpage and contact, I believe we have a contact point for weddings there, and you're contacting essentially the judicial assistant who then puts it on the calendar and will coordinate with you how to obtain a copy of the license issued by the auditor's office and the appropriate paperwork and set a time and date and all the arrangements. Right now for weddings, we conduct them after court hours, and we are limiting them to the 2 parties getting married and then to 2 statutorily required witnesses But at this point, no parties beyond that. So just a wedding party of 4. And we're also requiring folks to be masked. Certainly the witnesses, the judge and the parties may unmask for the purposes of the proceeding. And particularly if we can do it outside. And if we can do it outside, then the witnesses may be able to unmask as well. But if it's a rainy day and we have to do it inside, then probably everybody will be masked.
Okay, so those will be in person. Are there any court hearings that are done virtually, completely virtually?
Yes, a whole bunch of our court hearings will remain virtual, and some will become virtual as we go forward from the 15th of June. So we will continue with agreed criminal disposition cases where somebody's going to plead guilty, or there's going to be a dismissal, or there's going to be some sort of agreed continuance with conditions. Those types of cases, which frequently resolved cases, those types of hearings will continue to be virtual because the parties are agreeing to do so, and we've figured out ways in which we can conduct those proceedings in this fashion. Also, our protection order hearings have been virtual for the last 6 weeks. We've really found that to be something that's working quite well, and I suspect we will conduct those virtually, even though those occasionally end up in evidentiary hearings where we're taking testimony from both parties, but that hasn't proven to be a substantial obstacle. And in fact, it's proven to be an assistance in a number of occasions where we've had people who are not from this area. So actually our first protection order hearing that we did virtually involved a party who was residing in the state of Tennessee. And obviously it was much easier to conduct the hearing virtually than require them to fly out here and subject people to them and them to people on planes and hotels and transportation, and then coming into the courthouse. So we've figured out that that's a good way to do it. Any traffic hearings that we conduct that are not conducted through what we call e-mitigation or e-contested, which are electronic hearings that you can arrange through our court webpage. If you get a traffic ticket, if there is going to be the need for a hearing, we will conduct those hearings virtually as well. And most of our civil hearings, which we have not yet started, when we do start them, we'll start virtually. So small claims proceedings will be virtual, to include a virtual mediation that occurs prior to hearing the actual small claim itself. And our regular civil calendar and name change calendars, those calendars will be virtual as well. So we will be doing as many calendars as we can virtual because, all of us know by now from reading what we read and all the information that's out there that this virus, first of all, there is no vaccine yet. Mm-hmm. 2, there's not any really recognized effective treatment for it. Mm-hmm. And 3, we have learned that this virus is transmissible primarily through person-to-person contact. So recognizing those 3 factors, we have to modify what we do at court to meet our important obligations and that to reduce as best we can the opportunity for person-to-person contact. So that's why we're going to have a bunch of virtual hearings. Obviously, we've totally reduced the person-to-person contact, much mm-hmm. like you and I have today.
Right.
And by restricting the number of people who can come into the courthouse, we are also greatly restricting person-to-person contact. And that's why we can't let members of the public come and sit and watch in the courtroom because that's just adding more people. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've also learned about this virus is that it tends to propagate in closed spaces where people are for fairly lengthy periods of time. And that might, in fact, be another definition of a courtroom, because that's exactly what happens in a courtroom. We have people in a closed environment for lengthy periods of time, which means it's a virtual petri dish for this virus and probably others. So recognizing all that, we have had impose these limitations. And as uncomfortable as we all are with wearing masks, we're going to require those for ourselves and for anybody who does come into the courtroom for the foreseeable future. And we'll reevaluate that as the public health experts let us know that we can reconsider that.
Okay. And now I'm anticipating that you don't have any jury trials right now because that would be harder to do. Are there any plans to do that virtually, or what are your plans for doing jury trials in the future? Are those just being postponed into the future?
The timing of that question is perfect, Robert, because in fact, I've had a number of conversations today about that. And Judge Sam Meyer from my court and I are on the Supreme Court's jury trial task group for the state. And the Supreme Court's going to be issuing guidance here in the next week or so for courts throughout the state. The Supreme Court previously had ceased all jury trials through July 6th. So the hope is that come July 6th, courts will then be able to conduct jury trials if they are able to figure out procedures in which to do so. And that's a really tricky thing. So for us here locally, district court will start picking up on jury trials. It's not going to start Monday because we have to actually get them scheduled. So my guess is we're probably looking about a month out in order to allow this to happen. And the first big thing that has to happen is we have to find the space to do it, because the courthouse we have is wholly inadequate for not only conducting our normal criminal calendars, as I was explaining earlier, but now if you add in jurors to that mix, we just don't have the space to have people in there, have them appropriately distanced, and then still conduct the proceedings. So we are going to, and are currently engaged in a effort to find space. So one example might be schools are out, and obviously they've been out for a while, and we have no idea when they'll open back up. But we're contacting school districts to see if perhaps we can use auditoriums or gymnasiums as places in which to conduct these proceedings. And we're going to look at other facilities in the county as an option for doing this as well. So what happens when you have a jury trial is you call a whole bunch of people to be potential jurors. For a district court, since our jury size is 6, we typically get a jury pool of, say, 20 people. Rather than making 20 people come to one location and significantly increase the likelihood of person-to-person transmission, we are very likely to conduct our initial jury selection process virtually. So rather than coming to a court, those 20 people will be given a notice to appear, much like you gave me today, on Zoom. And I'm sure, much like me responding to your subpoena to appear before TCTV, those folks who receive a juror summons will, apply the same diligence and respond and appear. And we'll then do our examination of witnesses, not witnesses, but jurors remotely, and select our jury. And how that process will work is still being discussed with the judges, and we're trying to figure out how best it will go with the technology that we have. But I'm pretty confident that we will end up doing this virtually, and then we'll select our jury of 6. And then those 6 folks will then be given instructions to come into the court the next day, and wherever the court will be, whether it's going to be one of our local high schools or the fairgrounds, or who knows where it will be. But then they will come in, and then we'll need a space for them in which to sit as jurors 6 feet apart, both front, back, sideways. So that's, it's going to be kind of an odd situation.
Yep.
It might be like walking into a baseball stadium and seeing one person sit in each section. You're going to scratch your head and say, well, that looks odd, but that's going to be what happens because that's what public health tells us we need to do. All right. And then the parties will all be, arranged where they are, all 6 feet apart. We'll conduct our proceedings. We will, if we have room in this facility for the public, then it will be open. But if not, we will stream these proceedings like we've been streaming every one of our current judicial proceedings on YouTube, and folks will be able to watch the trial that way. And then the other interesting part of this is once we finish with the trial presentation, and probably during the trial presentation, jurors are going to need a deliberation room. But that room can't be the normal room we used, which has them very cramped. We're going to have to find a big enough room where they can all sit 6 feet apart,
Right.
and have a conversation, but have the room closed off so that the conversation is discreet and limited only to the members of the jury. So those are the kind of the challenges, but I think we can meet them. And once we get the space, I anticipate we'll be sending out notices to folks, to the parties to get ready. We're ready to start jury trials, and we'll send out juror notices to folks, giving them their Zoom notice, and we'll take off from there. And much like everything else we're doing, this is all open to reevaluation, because this is all new. You know, as we begin to bring people back into court, as we begin to conduct jury trials, these are procedures that we never had to use before. The masks, you know, can we get a good recording, for example, because all of our proceedings are recorded and we have to have a good audio record. Can we get that using masks? We're going to have to figure that out. And, you know, we're going to go a couple months, I think, and then reevaluate and see if there need to be some changes to the processes we're currently using. And the same thing will happen with jury trials. We'll be doing that as well. But, you know, it's the time we live in, and we can either look backward or look forward, and it does no good right now to look backwards. So we're choosing to look forward and trying to figure out how we navigate this, and we're finding some things that really work pretty well.
Well, thanks for working all this out, and thanks for all you do. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we let you go today?
You know, I appreciate everybody's patience in this regard. It's hard for all of us. This is a change, and you know, the obvious easy one to point at is masks. You know, it's really uncomfortable to wear them. They're hot. You know, we don't look good wearing a mask. All those sorts of things. But they are, every bit of public health advice tells us they are really quite helpful in preventing the spread of this disease, and all of us need to understand our personal role in that. Even as, you know, we continue to see new cases in Thurston County. So that's, you know, that's important, and complying with all these procedures is important. And we're learning things. You know, I did a veterans court hearing this morning with a person who has a job in another county, and he was able to have the hearing from his car in the parking lot of his work, so that as soon as we finished our hearing, he could leave his car and go into work and not miss work today. Whereas if he had had to come down here for court, he at least would have missed half day, if not a whole day of work. And, you know, I'm thinking, wow, this is actually working pretty well in certain situations. So that's a prime example of exactly how we can learn from being forced to do it this way, that maybe there are reasons we can continue to do certain things this way.
Yeah, especially if somebody's out of state. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Got it.
All right. Well, thanks again for taking the time.
Well, Robert, my pleasure, and I appreciate TCTV taking a strong interest in this, and it really helps educate those folks out there who are curious about just what the heck is going on. And at any point, they can just get on the court webpage and log in and watch any of our court proceedings, which we do every day and have been now for going on almost 3 months.
For more information on court procedures, please visit the court website at thurstoncountywa.gov. That's all we have for you today. Tune in next time for more updates. Again, if you have any questions or suggestions for something we should cover, send an email to rkam@tcmedia.org. Stay home, stay updated with Thurston Community Media, and stay safe, Thurston County.